Cheryl Moser. Cheryl with an S. Do you have trouble keeping Cheryl with a C away from you? So you don't even mind that you have some kind of a speed dating problem? So that would be year 2006. Cheryl had a reported speed dating problem. And I was wondering if she had said plenty of no in God. And she finally had God's interest, that she said yes to something in God. And I was wondering if Cheryl could be in upstate prison in state of Minnesota if she doesn't want to be in upstate prison of state of Wisconsin. Somewhere in the interior of Wisconsin. Or if not, she could be somewhere in the interior of Minnesota just because her name is Cheryl everywhere she is. Do you know why Charles Toe won't go to prison with his last name being Asian and he's in America? Well, I wouldn't care if I didn't know him the way you don't know him. You don't know him. I wish I didn't know him that way. I wish I was any of you looking at the internet and I see somebody's name is Charles Toe and there's somebody else using the internet channel. Yeah. You have don't care throughout your lifetime. You don't know that God is watching the threatening and he's not counting the time the way you count your US dollars. Is that about half? Okay, let's try a little more soda. Make it interesting. Okay. I want white dreamsicles to be interesting. Very good. Love it. These are, and I would like to add them to the dreamsicle. Just for taste, Charles Toe. Charles Toe used to say to me, just for taste, about his eating disorder. You know, that he's Asian and he's eating Moshe's food. Well, I didn't think it was mine to myself. I think he's eating out of the stock. But now I am deceased and I alive, all the stock is in view. But I didn't think that elsewhere because I didn't have any leverage in alive that was giving me stability. Everything was no, and it's not mine. I didn't have even my own food money. I didn't have money that I worked for. So I didn't know I alive the stock key. I just thought, wow, it's really hard to be financially sound in America. So this is Cherry Sprite, and this is Mariani Berries and Cherries. So I'll just drop them in there for taste, just for taste. Where'd I get this from? Kulu Convenience Stores has a shopper who mixes drinks. Yes, I did not get this idea just by myself. It's from YouTube video shorts. I don't see them all the time, but this is a big one. What is this? A strawberry? Oh. That's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know I don't have any ice in here. Well, it's cold though, yeah. So, let me tell you what I would not do. Is Cheryl my sister? Let's say she's my sister. So I would sit down and talk with my sister. I would say, when you eat something in God, you need to feel the presence of God in the eating, and it must be everlasting, that God will remember you and that he will be eating with you whenever there is eating with God. It is not really that I could say, Cheryl, you're a home invasion through the front door. She's not really a sister if she just leaves with mom and dad. And they could be her parents someplace. She can give them keys and banking somewhere else. I understand that's not possible because the banking starts with me. That means she needs to put her jail and prison into parents and put her parents into jail and prison so that they're not parents anymore because they died in a prison. They died out of the address. They died in the prison. She can't get them into prison. She shouldn't call them parents if she can't get them into prison. If I call them mom and dad, that's because they're somebody's mom and dad, but their age is really extremely different than mine. They really aren't mom and dad by age. Mom was born in 1936 and dad was born in 1934. The World War II problem. That happened shortly after. Okay, I have to move on to the videos. This is still charging. I know you want to see the dreamsicle, so do I. Okay, let me look for the videos this way. I guess Cheryl doesn't really leave her parents and go into jail and prison and wait for them to join her. Oh, so they don't love her. They don't want to be with her in jail and prison and die of their prejudice. Because that's how they could promise her if they're never her parents again, she can always have the blessing that they left with her because she is herself. And that's how I don't know Cheryl being a sister, because she's not really a sister that way. She didn't take my parents to jail and prison willingly and then die in God inside of a prison with deceased address. And then I don't need any of your banking, and you don't need any of my banking. So that means I don't love you, and I'm just this big. That's it. You want to weigh me in at the pediatrician again? Well, I am short enough to be at a pediatrician, but I'm age 48 years old. Will the pediatrician see me about how you shrunk my height from after it had grown through a pediatrician's supervision? What's your problem? You're going to leave a comment. You're not going to see this video because I'm not posting it on YouTube. Yeah, but what's your problem? You know, I had to say tongue clicker get out twice in front of the camera. That's my own mouth that doesn't mind doing that. And it's not sensitive to when I say get out that loud and angry. So who are you and what are you? You're more dangerous than that, huh? Because you're not myself. Why does my tongue click? I don't know. What are you thinking? What are you doing elsewheres in heaven? Well, I'm not in heaven. I should just be happy that I'm not in heaven myself. I'm here. But look at what you are. Right to myself. No room for error. That you would be a problem to each other. Mitch, hello. You and Cheryl are not paid for. That you don't give Cheryl money because you don't have any. And Cheryl didn't give Mitch any money because you don't have any. And you don't have a problem with each other because you don't live in the same state. But you're not deceased and you're not in jail or prison because you shun to each other. Why aren't you in prison because you shun to each other? Mitch, you need to be in prison because you shun to Donna, you shun to Hans, you shun to Cheryl, you shun to Steve. You need to be in prison because you're shunning to specific people. You cannot be in the public and living off of my money. I'm not an investor and that you're illegally shunning. I didn't do that to you. So, what about the tongue clicking if I stop shouting at you? Well, let's say I say, oh, the tongue is clicking. That's a little embarrassing. Yeah. Well, what's your argument as God? I mean, if the tongue must click and be angry, that is truly God being angry with myself. Well, who is going to take over for me if you don't like me? refund for Cheryl's ticket. Cheryl wasn't a problem. Don't you think my dad's a perverted person? He took my whole family on family vacations 9 times. That's about $1 million in interest of money that I need locked in my name so I can use it to pay the landlording charges that were ahead of me. And he spent all that money frivolously on people he called family who were not even in my schools. Well, they're not a problem that way. They weren't in my house either. You know? Well, do you ever spend money when it's not an emergency? Did you have an emergency? What was that? You don't have an emergency because you're controlling all the money? You control it down to zero and you have an emergency? Is heaven doing that? Oh, Howard Chang wants me to get off my parents' money. I want to know if heaven is going to account for the family vacations money. Because whose money was that? Right now I'm deceased. I have to say I'm deceased right here to talk about my parents' money. And it's still not enough leverage to get Howard Chait alive in the state of Nevada. So I can report to him something of what I heard from God about my parents' money. You mean I just have to report to him sexual climax in the presence of an enemy, but I don't actually tell him that I had the sexual climax and that God is talking to me about my money now? No, he wants Howard to talk to me as God about my money elsewhere. When I have the sexual climax, then I can't really prove it because I'm not himself. But he's watching my head go back. So how do you want to explain your family vacations? Do you like Cheryl sitting at the casino tables? You want to click my tongue one more time? Okay, what that means is Howard Chait, sex offender, he raped me first, and then he started to talk to me about myself and what I'm going to do with myself. And I have a creator of myself. Yeah. He violated the creator of myself and made him it angry. And then he just didn't pay for any of the damages, and he was still living in public and calling the phone line that he asked the phone number for. And he asked me if he could move in, but I have a landlord. Well, I'm not there unless it's deceased. Was he a volunteer landlord that's not deceased? Yes, but I cannot be involved in God's problems. I can record that I have met Howard Chait. I can record what he said to me. But I cannot record a sexual climax in the presence of Howard Chait because I thought that he was alone in the wrong, and then he violated me sexually, and then I had to think about him for the next 25 years. I am 25 years into ahead of after Howard Chait's sexual climax in the presence of an enemy, and he said, "Can I move in?" I am 25 years after that, and I still have not seen the creator of myself who created the sex. And I could say, yes, but I don't actually feel the sexual climax in the presence of an enemy as being a union with God, while the enemy is right there, forcing himself on me in public. Now I have to say in public, but I didn't think that it was wrong in public because he asked me in public. It's due that he not ask me in public if it's wrong to God in public. It's not for me to tell him, you cannot ask me this question in public. You can only ask me this question if I am in a prison. It's not true I've ever been in a prison. I cannot record the threatening because I don't have in my appearance at that time that I had been in prison. That's not true. So now I am giving my, disclosing my leverage as that superior founder is in prison in that scenario. If I'm in prison in superior founder, I can see someone like that, and then I would not have sex with him. I would kill him with a gunshot problem. And put him in the morgue. And so why do I have to landlord anything other than that? Because that's how I stand there and you think there's something that you can get out of me because you're not going to change who you are. But I think there's nothing you can get out of me because why would I change who I am for you? Let's say that's true. Let's say Howard Chait is saying, I want sex, it's just what I need, and I'm not going to change who I am for anyone. And I don't know who you are at all. This is a greeting. What's your name? Becky. What's your last name? He didn't ask me what's your last name. No. What's my first name? Becky. Yeah. That's what he said to somebody who said, my name is Becky. Yeah. I have been waiting for the end of time just to tell God that was terrible. Yeah, but why was it terrible to me? Because I don't see God in the creation of myself. I do think God doesn't know me at all. What would I do? If somebody says to me, I want sex, it's just what I need, I would take him to a jail. I would materialize a gun with no trigger and watch it go off right on his head. Like it knows him with the bullet right in his head, and he can scream. And I will tell him that when you're done screaming, I will tell you why you're screaming. I'll say, you said to me, I want sex, it's just what I need. And that's how I feel about having sex with you. That's how I feel about you. That's what I think about you. I think you should be nowhere near my genitals. You should be nowhere near my ears. Don't nail me in the ear with what you said. You need a gunshot to your head. And you need to be in a prison so that you don't talk to me ever. I don't want to hear it. I don't really know you. And I can't really live with that. I've been paying landlording rent charges for 25 years. Just thinking about what Howard Chait said to me and how he raped me in my own bed, and then he said, can I move in here? I just don't even want to know about that. That's really not my problem, is it? If I would take Howard Chait to the nearest jail, lock him in there myself, put a gun in between the bars, and put a bullet right in his head, do you think he'd even run around the jail cell? Would he run from one wall to the other? Would he run away from the gun? I want to know because I don't know him personally. Would he run from one wall to the other? Would he go all the way to the back of the cell? Would he gasp at God? Howard Chait is Cheryl's age. That's what he said. Year 1970 birthday. And Cheryl's birthday is year 1969. I never told him that. Would you have sexual climax in the presence of an enemy and you never told him? You're the same age as someone with the same last name as me, Cheryl. Her last name Moser. She is born around the same time as you, year 1969. I didn't tell him that. No, he said, I want sex, it's just what I need. He doesn't need to know anything about my last name. So, he needs a bullet in his head, right? Do you think I'm violent? You don't think he's violent to make me think about him and pay rent charges on what I think about him for 25 years? You think I shouldn't put a bullet in his head. You don't think that's violent of you. You don't think there's something wrong with you? I don't want to hear it. Comments are open.